The little girl's hand felt cold when she tugged on Jeffrey Morrison's sleeve. He looked down at her tear-stained face, ready to politely direct her back to her guardian, when she spoke words that made his blood freeze. "Please, mister. It's my mommy's last day alive. She just wanted to see me get a puppy, but we can't afford it." The upscale pet adoption event continued around them, wealthy donors mingling with champagne glasses while rescue dogs played in decorated pens. Jeffrey had come alone as always, thinking maybe a dog would fill the echoing silence of his mansion. At 42 he had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. His tech company had made him billions, but his penthouse felt like a tomb. No wife. No children. Just endless rooms and the hollow sound of his own footsteps. But this child, maybe 6 years old with cornrow braids and a faded blue dress, looked up at him with eyes that held too much understanding for someone so young. "Your mother's last day?" Jeffrey knelt down to her level. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "The doctor said she has weeks, maybe days. She's real sick. Cancer. She's outside in the car because she's too tired to walk far, but she drove me here anyway, 'cause I never asked for nothing else. Just a puppy to keep me company when—" The little girl's voice cracked. "When she's gone." Jeffrey felt something crack inside his chest. "Take me to her. Right now." The girl, who said her name was Imani, led him through the parking lot to an old Honda with rust on the doors. Inside, a woman rested against the driver's seat, eyes closed, her beautiful African-American features drawn with exhaustion and pain. She wore a green cardigan that hung loose on her thin frame. When Imani tapped on the window, her mother's eyes opened, and Jeffrey saw something he'd never forget. Dignity mixed with desperate hope mixed with the terrible knowledge that time was running out. Cassidy Parker tried to sit up straighter when she saw the strange man with her daughter. "Imani, baby, you can't bother people like that." "Mrs. Parker." Jeffrey spoke through the open window. "My name is Jeffrey Morrison. Your daughter told me about your situation. Please, I'd like to help." Cassidy's jaw tightened. "We don't need charity, Mr. Morrison. I just brought my baby to look at the puppies. We'll be fine." But her hands shook on the steering wheel, and Jeffrey could see the yellow tinge in her eyes that spoke of liver failure. He'd lost his own mother to cancer when he was Imani's age. He knew that look. The look of someone fighting a losing battle, trying to be brave for a child who would soon be alone. "Please," Jeffrey said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. "Let me buy Imani a dog. And let me buy you dinner. Just conversation. No strings. I'm lonely, you're tired, and maybe we can help each other tonight." Cassidy studied his face looking for the catch. Jeffrey kept his expression open and honest. Finally she nodded. "There's a diner 2 blocks away. I can manage that." The diner had cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lights that buzzed. Imani sat beside her mother, pressing close, while Jeffrey sat across from them. He ordered them both meals, noticed how Cassidy barely touched her soup, how Imani watched her mother with constant worry no child should carry. "How long have you known?" Jeffrey asked gently. 4 months since the diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It moved fast. Cassidy's voice was steady, but her hands twisted a napkin. "I was a second-grade teacher. Good insurance, I thought. But the treatments cost more than I ever imagined. I took out loans, sold everything, and it still wasn't enough. Eventually, I had to stop treatment and use what's left to keep a roof over Imani's head for as long as I can." "What about family? Imani's father?" Cassidy's laugh was bitter. "He left when I got pregnant. My parents died in a car accident when I was 20. No siblings. No aunts or uncles. It's just been me and Imani since she was born. And soon." She glanced at her daughter, who was focused on coloring the paper placemat. "Soon it'll just be her. Foster care, they tell me. They'll try to find her a good home." Jeffrey watched Imani color, her small hand gripping a red crayon, creating a picture of a woman and child holding hands under a bright sun. His heart hurt in a way he didn't know was possible. "What if I told you it doesn't have to be that way?" Cassidy looked up sharply. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the meal, but I don't know you. And I need to be realistic about Imani's future." "Then let me be realistic." Jeffrey leaned forward. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have a house with 20 rooms and nobody to share them with. I have access to the best medical care in the world. And I have time. Let me help you. Let me pay for new treatments, new doctors, new options. Let me make sure Imani has everything she needs, whether you recover or—" He paused. "Or whether you don't." "Why?" Cassidy's voice was barely a whisper. "Why would you do this for strangers?" "Because when I was 6 years old, I watched my mother die of cancer while my father worked 3 jobs trying to save her. Because I built a fortune and forgot why I was building it. Because your daughter looked at me tonight like maybe I could be the answer to a prayer, and I haven't felt needed in 20 years. Jeffrey's voice was rough with emotion. Let me do this, please. Not as charity. As a chance for all 3 of us to have something we've been missing. Cassidy stared at him for a long moment. Jeffrey could see her pride warring with her desperation, her need to protect Imani fighting against the reality of her situation. Then Imani looked up from her coloring. Mommy, I like him. He has kind eyes. Cassidy's resistance crumbled. Tears slid down her cheeks as she nodded. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Yes. Help us. Please help us. Jeffrey felt purpose flood through him for the first time in decades. I will. I promise you, I will do everything in my power to save your life and protect your daughter. That night, Jeffrey made phone calls that would change everything. He contacted the head of oncology at Johns Hopkins. He arranged for Cassidy to be seen by specialists the next morning. He hired a car service to take them home safely and ensured a nurse would check on Cassidy during the night. As he watched their taillights disappear into the darkness, Jeffrey felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope mixed with fear. Hope that he could save them. Fear that he was already too late. But either way he would keep his promise. Cassidy and Imani wouldn't face this alone anymore. The lonely billionaire had gone looking for a dog to fill the empty spaces in his life. Instead, he'd found something far more valuable. A reason to use his fortune for something that truly mattered, and a family that needed exactly what he had to give. Before we continue, I need to ask you something important. Have you ever felt completely alone despite being surrounded by people? Have you watched someone fight a battle they couldn't win and wished you could help? This story explores how one moment of connection can change everything. Please subscribe and comment below. What would you do if a child told you their parent was dying? Your thoughts matter to us, and sharing this story could inspire someone else who feels alone. The next morning, Jeffrey arrived at Cassidy's apartment at 7. The building was in a rough neighborhood, the kind where the elevator smelled like mildew and the hallway lights flickered. He knocked on apartment 3C and Imani answered, already dressed in the same faded blue dress from the night before. Mr. Jeffrey. She smiled, and it transformed her worried little face into something bright. Mommy's getting ready. The nurse you sent helped her shower. Inside, the apartment was tiny but spotless. Cassidy emerged from the bedroom wearing a red sweater that was clearly her best piece of clothing. She'd put on makeup to hide the worst of her pallor, but Jeffrey could see how much effort just getting dressed had cost her. The car's waiting downstairs, he said gently. Hopkins is expecting us at 9. I've arranged for Imani to stay with a qualified childcare provider at the hospital, someone who specializes in helping kids through difficult situations. This is too much, Cassidy said, but there was no real protest in her voice. Just exhaustion and gratitude. It's not enough, Jeffrey replied. It's not nearly enough. At Johns Hopkins, they met with Dr. Patricia Whitmore, one of the nation's leading oncologists. She reviewed Cassidy's files, ran new tests, and spoke with a gentleness that came from decades of delivering hard truths. By afternoon they had the results. Jeffrey sat beside Cassidy in the consultation room, holding her hand without thinking about it, while Dr. Whitmore spoke. The cancer has progressed significantly, Mrs. Parker. With standard treatment we're looking at weeks, perhaps a month or 2. However, Dr. Whitmore paused. There are experimental treatments. Clinical trials. They're expensive, not covered by insurance, and the success rate is low. Maybe 20%. But it's a chance. How expensive? Cassidy asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer didn't matter. Between treatments, hospitalization, medication, and monitoring, we're looking at approximately $800,000 over 6 months. Cassidy closed her eyes. Jeffrey squeezed her hand. Schedule everything, he said. Today. Right now. Whatever she needs, whatever gives her the best chance. Money is not a factor. Mr. Morrison, you can't. Cassidy started. I can and I will. We're not discussing this, Cassidy. You're getting treatment and Imani is getting her mother back. That's the plan. Accept it. For the first time since they'd met, Cassidy smiled, really smiled. You're very bossy for a stranger who bought me dinner. I'm a billionaire. Bossy is in the job description. Jeffrey smiled back. Besides, we're not strangers anymore. We're friends. And friends help each other. Over the next week, Jeffrey arranged everything. He moved Cassidy and Imani into the guest house on his estate, a 3-bedroom cottage overlooking a lake that was nicer than any place Cassidy had ever lived. He hired a full-time nurse, a housekeeper, and enrolled Imani in the best private school in the district. Cassidy cried when she saw the cottage. "This is too much. Jeffrey, this is too much." "It's practical," Jeffrey insisted. "You need round-the-clock care. Imani needs stability. I have the space. This makes sense." But the truth was more complicated. Having them there made his vast estate feel like home for the first time. Imani's laughter echoed through gardens that had been silent for years. Cassidy's presence, even weak as she was, brought warmth to cold marble halls. The treatments began. They were brutal. Cassidy spent days sick from chemotherapy, her beautiful hair falling out in clumps. Jeffrey visited every evening, reading to Imani while Cassidy rested, helping with homework, just being present. One night, 2 weeks into treatment, he found Cassidy sitting on the cottage porch, wrapped in a blanket despite the summer warmth. She'd lost more weight, and her head was wrapped in a soft maroon scarf. "Can't sleep?" Jeffrey sat beside her. "Thinking about what happens if this doesn't work," Cassidy said quietly. "You've done so much, Jeffrey. More than anyone has a right to ask. But Imani, if I die she'll have nobody. Foster care means she could end up anywhere with anyone. It terrifies me." Jeffrey had been thinking about this for days. He'd consulted lawyers, reviewed options, and made a decision that felt both crazy and completely right. What if she had me? Cassidy turned to look at him. "What?" "I've spoken with attorneys. If you're willing, we can arrange for me to become Imani's legal guardian in the event of your death. She would stay here in her home with someone who cares about her. You wouldn't have to worry. Jeffrey, you barely know us. You can't take on a child. I know you're brave and kind and you've raised an incredible daughter. I know Imani is smart and funny and she reminds me why life matters. I know that in 2 weeks, you've both given me more joy than I've had in 20 years. Jeffrey met her eyes. "Let me do this. Let me be the safety net you need. Please." Cassidy's tears fell silently. "Why are you so good? Why did you walk into our lives?" "Maybe I was supposed to. Maybe we all needed each other." Jeffrey wiped her tears gently. "Say yes, Cassidy. Let me help carry this burden." She nodded, unable to speak. The next day, lawyers drew up the papers. Jeffrey Morrison became Imani Parker's legal guardian, a role that would activate only if Cassidy didn't survive. But signing those documents changed something between them. They became a team, united in their love for Imani and their determination to beat the cancer. Dr. Whitmore monitored Cassidy's progress carefully. After 4 weeks of treatment, she called them in for results. Jeffrey drove them to Hopkins, his hand finding Cassidy's in the car, their fingers intertwining like it was the most natural thing in the world. "The tumor has shrunk," Dr. Whitmore said, and Cassidy gasped. 15% reduction. "It's early but it's working. Your body is responding to the treatment." Cassidy sobbed with relief, and Jeffrey held her while she cried tears of hope instead of despair. Imani, who'd been sitting quietly, jumped up and hugged them both. "Mommy's going to be okay," she said with absolute faith. "Mr. Jeffrey saved you." That night, Jeffrey made dinner for them in his main house, a simple pasta that was the extent of his cooking skills. They sat at the enormous dining table that usually felt ridiculous, and Imani chattered about her new school while Cassidy ate more than she had in weeks. "Thank you," Cassidy said when Imani went to play. "For everything. For believing in us. For not letting me give up." "You would never have given up," Jeffrey said. "You just needed someone to help you keep fighting." "I didn't just need help." Cassidy looked at him, something shifting in her eyes. "I needed you specifically. This whole thing, it feels like fate. Like we were meant to find each other." Jeffrey felt his heart skip. "I feel that too." They looked at each other across the table, and something passed between them that was more than gratitude, more than friendship. Something that felt like the beginning of love. Despite the positive response to treatment, Cassidy's journey was far from over. Dr. Whitmore warned them that the next 3 months would be critical. The cancer might shrink further, stabilize, or suddenly spread. Every scan was a moment of terror followed by relief or despair. Jeffrey found himself living for the hours he spent with Cassidy and Imani. His company practically ran itself with his capable management team, freeing him to be present for doctor appointments, school pickups, and quiet evenings in the cottage. One Friday evening, 6 weeks into treatment, Cassidy had a setback. Her temperature spiked to 104, and she collapsed while walking to the bathroom. The nurse called an ambulance and Jeffrey met them at Hopkins. He found himself in a hospital waiting room at midnight, Imani asleep with her head in his lap, while Cassidy fought an infection that could kill her weakened immune system. Jeffrey prayed for the first time since his mother's death, bargaining with God, the universe, anyone who would listen. Dr. Whitmore emerged at 3 in the morning. She's stable. The antibiotics are working. She'll need to stay a few days, but she's going to be okay. Jeffrey sagged with relief. He carried Imani to Cassidy's room, where she lay pale and exhausted but alive. Her eyes opened when they entered. "Hey," she whispered. "Sorry for the scare." "Don't apologize." Jeffrey set Imani in the chair beside the bed and took Cassidy's hand. "Just keep fighting." "I'm so tired, Jeffrey. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being selfish, putting everyone through this. Putting Imani through watching me suffer. Putting you through." "Stop." Jeffrey's voice was firm. "You're not putting us through anything. We're choosing to be here. Imani needs her mother. And I." He paused, his throat tight. "I need you too, Cassidy. More than I thought possible." Cassidy's eyes filled with tears. "I'm falling in love with you. Is that crazy? I'm dying, you're saving me, and I'm falling in love with you." "It's not crazy." Jeffrey leaned closer. "Because I'm falling in love with you too. And you're not dying. You're fighting. We're fighting together." They stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Jeffrey worked from Cassidy's room, took Imani to the hospital cafeteria for meals, and slept in the uncomfortable chair by Cassidy's bed. The nursing staff stopped questioning his presence. He belonged there. During those days they talked about everything. Cassidy told him about growing up in Baltimore, becoming a teacher because she loved helping children learn, the joy of discovering she was pregnant despite her circumstances. Jeffrey shared his lonely childhood after his mother's death, building his company as a shield against feeling anything, the hollow achievement of making his first billion. "You needed purpose," Cassidy said on the 3rd day. "Money was just the scoreboard. You were trying to prove you mattered." "Did I?" Jeffrey asked. "You matter to us. To Imani. To me." Cassidy squeezed his hand. "You matter so much, Jeffrey." When Cassidy was discharged, Jeffrey brought them home to find the cottage decorated with welcome home signs Imani had made at school. The little girl had also planted flowers in the garden with the housekeeper's help, bright red and blue blooms that made Cassidy cry happy tears. Life fell into a rhythm. Cassidy had treatment 3 times a week. On good days she played with Imani, read books, sat in the garden. On bad days, Jeffrey brought her tea and sat quietly while she slept, his presence a comfort even in silence. Imani thrived at her new school. She made friends, joined the art club, and brought home drawings that Jeffrey framed and hung in his office. She called him Mr. Jeffrey, but sometimes when she was tired or scared she'd slip and call him Daddy, then look worried. Jeffrey never corrected her. The word felt right. 2 months into treatment, Dr. Whitmore scheduled a crucial scan. This would determine if the treatment was truly working or if they needed to consider other options. The night before, Cassidy couldn't sleep. She sat in the main house kitchen at 2 in the morning, and Jeffrey found her there. "Can't turn your brain off?" He poured them both tea. "What if tomorrow's results are bad? What if this has all been false hope?" Cassidy's voice shook. "I don't want to leave her, Jeffrey. I'm not ready." "Then don't." Jeffrey pulled his chair close to hers. "Fight with everything you have. And no matter what the scan shows, we'll face it together." "I'm not going anywhere, Cassidy. Even if..." He couldn't finish the sentence. "Even if I die, you'll take care of her." "I know you will." Cassidy leaned her head on his shoulder. "You've given us everything. A home. Oh, love. I never expected to find love, not like this." "I love you," Jeffrey said, the words simple and true. "I love you and I love Imani, and we're going to beat this thing. We have to." Cassidy lifted her head and kissed him, soft and gentle. "I love you too. Thank you for giving me a reason to keep fighting." The next day, the 3 of them went to Hopkins together, holding hands in the waiting room like the family they'd become. When Dr. Whitmore called them in, Jeffrey's heart pounded so hard he thought it might explode. Dr. Whitmore smiled, and Jeffrey knew before she spoke. "The tumor has shrunk by 40%. The cancer markers in your blood have dropped significantly. Mrs. Parker, you're responding better than we dared hope. This is very, very good news." Cassidy burst into tears. Imani cheered. Jeffrey just held them both, feeling like he could breathe fully for the first time in months. "We'll continue treatment for another 3 months, then reassess," Dr. Whitmore continued. "But if this trajectory continues, we're looking at remission. Real remission. You might actually beat this thing." Driving home, Cassidy couldn't stop smiling despite her exhaustion. "I'm going to live," she kept saying. "Jeffrey, I'm going to live." "I know," Jeffrey said, his own smile stretching his face. "I never doubted it." "Liar." Cassidy laughed. "You were terrified." Terrified and faithful. Both can be true. That night, after Imani was asleep, Jeffrey and Cassidy sat on the cottage porch, wrapped in blankets, watching stars emerge in the clear sky. "If I survive this, if I really beat the cancer, I want to live differently," Cassidy said. "I want to teach again, but I also want to help other families going through this. Nobody should face medical bankruptcy and death because they can't afford treatment." "We'll start a foundation," Jeffrey said immediately. "Medical grants for families with sick parents. We'll call it—" He paused. "What should we call it?" "Imani's Hope," Cassidy said. "Because she gave us both hope when we needed it most." "Perfect." Jeffrey kissed her forehead. "We'll launch it the day you go into remission." "And what about us?" Cassidy looked up at him. "What happens when I'm healthy? Do we stay in your guest house? Do I get a job somewhere and move back to reality?" "You stay here. You and Imani both stay here forever if you'll have me." Jeffrey took her hand. "I know it's fast. I know this all happened in crisis. But I love you, Cassidy. I love the family we've become. When you're healthy, when you're strong, I'm going to ask you to marry me. Fair warning." Cassidy laughed, the sound like music. "Fair warning accepted. And for the record, when you ask, I'll say yes." They sat together until the stars filled the sky, two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment, now looking toward a future bright with possibility. The lonely billionaire had found a family. The dying mother had found hope. And the little girl had found a father. All because one moment of courage led to one simple word. Yes. Autumn arrived with golden leaves that Imani collected in buckets, creating art projects that covered every surface of the cottage. Cassidy's hair started growing back in soft curls, darker than before. She gained weight, color returned to her cheeks, and the yellow tint left her eyes. Jeffrey watched her come back to life like a flower after rain. Every small improvement felt like a miracle. The day she walked a mile around the estate grounds without getting winded, he wanted to throw a party. The day she beat him at chess, her mind sharp again, he actually did open champagne. "You're celebrating me winning a board game?" Cassidy laughed, sipping the expensive bubbles. "I'm celebrating you," Jeffrey corrected. "Every single part of you getting stronger." But with Cassidy's improving health came new challenges. She was no longer the weak patient who needed constant care. She was a vibrant, intelligent woman finding her strength, and sometimes that strength made her want independence. "I need to contribute," she said one morning over breakfast. "You've paid for everything for 4 months. I can't just live here like some kind of kept woman." "You're not a kept woman. You're family." Jeffrey frowned. "And you're still in treatment. Your job is to get well." "My job is to be a mother and a person with purpose." Cassidy's jaw set stubbornly. "I miss teaching, Jeffrey. I miss having my own money, my own purpose beyond surviving." They argued about it for days. Finally, Jeffrey proposed a compromise. "What if you tutored Imani and a few other kids here at the estate? Low stress, flexible schedule, your own income from your own work. Would that help?" Cassidy considered it. "Yes. Actually, yes. That would help a lot." Within 2 weeks, Cassidy was tutoring 3 children whose families worked on the estate, plus Imani. She set up a classroom in one of the estate's unused rooms, filled it with books and art supplies, and came alive teaching in a way that made Jeffrey's heart ache with love. He'd sneak in to watch her sometimes, seeing the patience and joy she brought to helping children understand difficult concepts. This was who Cassidy Parker truly was. Not a victim, not a patient, but a teacher who lit up when kids learned. One afternoon, Jeffrey arrived to pick up Imani and found Cassidy sitting on the floor with her small class, all of them reading together. She looked up and smiled at him, and he thought he might burst from the simple happiness of it. "Mr. Jeffrey." Imani ran to him. "Mommy taught us about space today. Did you know there are billions of stars?" "I did know that." Jeffrey scooped her up. "Did you know your mommy is smarter than all those stars combined?" Cassidy blushed. "Stop that." "Never." Jeffrey grinned. That evening, after Imani was in bed, Cassidy came to the main house. Jeffrey was in his study reviewing contracts, but he pushed everything aside when she entered. "I wanted to thank you," she said, perching on the edge of his desk, "for understanding that I needed this. For not making me feel like I had to just accept charity." "You've never accepted charity, Cassidy. You've accepted help, which is different." Jeffrey stood, moving closer. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. Letting people help doesn't change that. I'm not that strong. Sometimes I'm still terrified." She looked down at her hands. "I have another scan next week. What if the cancer comes back? What if this was just borrowed time? Then we'll fight again." Jeffrey took her hands. but I believe you're beating this. You're getting stronger every day. Look at you, teaching, playing with Imani, arguing with me. That's not borrowed time. That's living. Cassidy's eyes filled with tears. I'm so grateful for you. Before you, I was just trying to survive long enough to say goodbye to my daughter. Now I'm planning a future. How did you do that? I didn't do anything. You did it. You chose to fight. You chose to accept help. You chose to hope. Jeffrey cupped her face gently. You saved yourself, Cassidy. I just provided resources. You provided love, she corrected. That was the real medicine. They kissed and it felt different than before. Less desperate, more certain. The kiss of two people who'd weathered a storm together and come out stronger. The next scan showed continued improvement. Dr. Whitmore was cautiously optimistic. If this continues for another 2 months, we can start talking about ending active treatment and moving to monitoring. You're on track for remission, Mrs. Parker. Cassidy wept in the doctor's office, but this time from joy instead of fear. Jeffrey held her, his own eyes damp, while Imani hugged them both. I'm going to make it, Cassidy whispered against his chest. I'm really going to make it. I told you, Jeffrey murmured. I never doubted. To celebrate, Jeffrey took them to the beach for the weekend. Cassidy had always wanted to see the ocean but had never been able to afford the trip. They rented a house on the coast and for 3 days they were just a normal family on vacation. Imani built sandcastles. Cassidy walked the beach collecting shells. Jeffrey taught Imani to body surf in the small waves, both of them getting tumbled and laughing. At night, they made a bonfire and roasted marshmallows while Cassidy told stories about her childhood. This is what I wanted to give Imani, she said quietly after Imani had fallen asleep in Jeffrey's lap. Normal childhood memories. Family time. Well, I thought I'd run out of time. You have all the time in the world now, Jeffrey said. This is just the beginning. They sat by the dying fire, listening to waves crash in the darkness, and Jeffrey knew this was what wealth was really for. Not mansions or cars or status, but the ability to give moments like this to people you love. Back home, Cassidy expanded her tutoring. She started working with children from the local public schools whose families couldn't afford extra help. Word spread about the teacher who'd survived cancer and wanted to give back, and soon Cassidy had a waiting list of students. I need to make this official, she told Jeffrey. A real tutoring program properly structured. Can you help me set it up? Jeffrey helped her form a nonprofit. The Imani's Hope Learning Center launched in November, offering free tutoring to low-income children. Cassidy ran it from the estate, her energy and passion making it a success from day one. You're building your own legacy, Jeffrey said proudly. Not dependent on me. Yours. It's ours, Cassidy corrected. You made it possible. We're partners in this. The word partners hung between them, full of promise. That night, Jeffrey pulled out the ring he'd been carrying for weeks. A simple diamond, elegant but not ostentatious. He found Cassidy in the cottage garden, deadheading flowers in the twilight. Cassidy Parker, he said, and she turned, her eyes widening when she saw him on one knee. You taught me how to live again. You showed me that money means nothing without love. You and Imani gave me a family and a purpose. Will you marry me? Will you be my partner in everything forever? Cassidy's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she said. Yes, Jeffrey, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and they held each other as stars appeared overhead. Imani came running from the cottage, alerted by the commotion, and when she saw the ring, she squealed with delight. Does this mean Mr. Jeffrey is going to be my real daddy? If that's okay with you, Jeffrey said, his voice thick with emotion. Imani hugged him tight. It's very okay. I love you, Daddy. And there it was. The word he'd been waiting to hear. Daddy. The title he'd never thought he'd have. Jeffrey held his daughter close, his fiancée beside him, and felt completely, perfectly happy. 2 weeks before Cassidy's next major scan, Dr. Whitmore called with urgent news. I've been consulting with colleagues in Germany about your case, she said over the phone. There's a new immunotherapy protocol at the Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. It's showing remarkable results for pancreatic cancer patients. I think you're an ideal candidate. Germany? Cassidy's voice shook. Dr. Whitmore, I can't afford. Mrs. Parker, Dr. Whitmore interrupted gently. Given your current improvement and the aggressive nature of your original cancer, this treatment could mean the difference between remission and cure. Between living with the threat of recurrence and living free. I've already discussed it with Mr. Morrison. Jeffrey took Cassidy's hand. We're going. All of us. As soon as they can schedule you. Jeffrey, this is too much. The cost, taking Imani out of school, you leaving your business for months. None of that matters. Jeffrey's voice was firm. What matters is giving you the absolute best chance at a full cure. We're going to Germany and we're not discussing it further. Cassidy looked at him, then at Imani, who'd been listening from the doorway. But what about Imani's education? Her friends? She's finally settled. I want to go, Imani said quickly. I want Mommy to get the best medicine. And I've never been on an airplane. This could be an adventure. Jeffrey smiled. See? She's braver than both of us. We leave in 10 days. The next week was a whirlwind. Jeffrey arranged everything. Medical records transferred, apartment rental in Munich, private jet for travel, enrollment in an international school for Imani, even German language tutors for all of them. His assistant coordinated with the German hospital while Jeffrey handled his company remotely. Cassidy watched it all happen with a mixture of awe and anxiety. You're literally rearranging your entire life for me. For us, Jeffrey corrected. That's what family does. They flew to Munich on a cold December morning. Imani pressed her face to the airplane window the entire flight, exclaiming over clouds and the ocean far below. Cassidy dozed against Jeffrey's shoulder, her engagement ring catching the light. Munich was beautiful, a city of old architecture and Christmas markets already setting up for the season. Their apartment overlooked the English garden, spacious and warm. Imani loved it immediately, especially the view of the park where she could see people walking their dogs. The Ludwig Maximilians University Hospital was state-of-the-art. Dr. Klaus Bergman, the lead researcher on the immunotherapy protocol, reviewed Cassidy's case with intense focus. Your cancer responded well to the American treatment, which is good, he said in excellent English. This makes you an ideal candidate for our protocol. We're essentially training your immune system to recognize and destroy any remaining cancer cells. The process takes 12 weeks, with treatments twice weekly. Side effects can be significant but temporary. What's the success rate? Cassidy asked. For patients like you who've already responded to treatment, we're seeing 75% achieve complete remission with no recurrence after 5 years. Cassidy gasped. 75%? These are extraordinary results, Dr. Bergman nodded. This is why Dr. Whitmore referred you. You have a real chance at a complete cure, Mrs. Parker. Jeffrey squeezed Cassidy's hand. When do we start? Tomorrow if you're ready. That night, they walked through a Christmas market, the air smelling of roasted nuts and mulled wine. Imani rode a carousel while lights twinkled overhead. Cassidy held Jeffrey's arm, bundled in a blue coat he'd bought her. I'm scared, she admitted. What if this doesn't work? What if we came all this way for nothing? Then we'll have spent 3 months in a beautiful city together as a family, Jeffrey said. And we'll have tried everything possible. But Cassidy, I believe this is going to work. I feel it in my bones. Cassidy leaned into him. When did you become such an optimist? When I met a woman who fought cancer with a 6-year-old daughter and still had the strength to teach children and fall in love. Jeffrey kissed her temple. You taught me to believe in miracles. The treatment began the next day. It was brutal. The immunotherapy made Cassidy violently ill, gave her fever and chills, exhausted her completely. Some days she couldn't get out of bed. Jeffrey stayed by her side, reading to her, bringing ice chips, just being present. Imani attended the international school and thrived despite the language barrier. She made friends with other expat children and came home each day with stories that made Cassidy smile even through her misery. Tell me about school, baby, Cassidy would whisper on her worst days. And Imani would chatter about her art class, her new friend Sophia from Italy, the funny way her German teacher pronounced English words. Her voice was medicine. Jeffrey worked American hours from the apartment, handling business on video calls at odd hours. His management team back home kept things running smoothly, but his focus was on Cassidy and Imani. Nothing else mattered. 6 weeks into treatment, Dr. Bergman scheduled an assessment scan. The waiting room anxiety was familiar but no less terrible. Cassidy's hand trembled in Jeffrey's as they waited for results. Dr. Bergman entered with a smile that made Jeffrey's heart leap. The immunotherapy is working beautifully. We're seeing significant reduction in cancer markers. More importantly, your immune system is responding exactly as we hoped. Mrs. Parker, your body is learning to fight this disease on its own. Cassidy cried, and Imani hugged her, and Jeffrey just breathed deeply, relief washing over him in waves. They celebrated that night with dinner at a traditional German restaurant. Imani tried schnitzel and declared it pretty good, which was high praise from a 7-year-old. Cassidy ate a full meal for the first time in weeks, her appetite returning as her body adjusted to the treatment. "I can feel it working," she said. "I know that sounds crazy, but I can feel myself getting stronger." "It's not crazy," Jeffrey said. "Your body is healing. Really healing." The next 6 weeks were easier. Cassidy's side effects lessened as her immune system strengthened. She started walking in the English garden, first just a few hundred meters, then farther each day. By the final week of treatment, she could walk for an hour without tiring. Imani learned German phrases from her friends and taught them to Cassidy and Jeffrey at dinner. The three of them would butcher pronunciation together, laughing until their sides hurt. They visited castles on weekends, explored Christmas markets, and became a fixture at a small cafe near their apartment where the owner learned their usual orders. Jeffrey watched Cassidy bloom like a rose in sunlight. Her hair grew thicker, her skin glowed with health, and her laughter came easily. This was the woman she'd been before cancer tried to take her, vibrant and full of life. On the last day of treatment, Dr. Bergman did a final comprehensive scan. The entire medical team gathered to review results, which Jeffrey knew meant something significant. "Mrs. Parker," Dr. Bergman said, his voice filled with emotion. "I've been a cancer researcher for 30 years. I've seen many good results. But this is exceptional. You have no detectable cancer. None. Your immune system has cleared every trace of disease. You are, by every measure we have, cured." The word cured hung in the air like a benediction. Cassidy stared at the doctor, unable to speak. Jeffrey felt tears on his cheeks. Imani looked between the adults, sensing the magnitude but not quite understanding. "Mommy?" Imani asked. "What does cured mean?" Cassidy picked up her daughter, holding her tight. "It means the cancer is gone, baby. All gone. Mommy's going to be okay. Mommy's going to watch you grow up." They held each other and cried happy tears while the medical staff applauded. Jeffrey wrapped his arms around both his girls, his family, and thanked every power in the universe for this moment. That night, they stood on their apartment balcony overlooking Munich, the city lights spread like jewels below. Imani slept peacefully inside, exhausted from celebration. "I can't believe it's real," Cassidy whispered. 6 months ago I was planning my funeral. Now I'm planning a wedding, a future, a life." "Believe it," Jeffrey said. "You fought the hardest battle anyone can fight and you won. You're here, you're healthy, and you're mine. Forever," Cassidy promised. "I'm yours forever." They went inside, closed the curtains on Munich, and held each other close, two survivors of different kinds of emptiness who'd found exactly what they needed in each other. The lonely billionaire had a family. The dying mother was cured. And the little girl had both parents, healthy and whole and devoted to her happiness. Miracles, Jeffrey thought, do happen. Sometimes they just need someone willing to believe in them enough to make them possible. They stayed in Munich for an additional month for monitoring and follow-up care. Dr. Bergman wanted to ensure Cassidy's immune system remained strong and that no cancer markers reappeared. Every test came back clear. Every scan showed a healthy body rebuilding itself. Cassidy gained weight, reaching a healthy level for the first time since her diagnosis. Her hair grew long enough to style, soft curls that framed her face. She looked younger somehow, as if beating death had reversed time. "I feel like I'm becoming myself again," she told Jeffrey one morning. "The person I was before cancer, but better. Stronger." "You're magnificent," Jeffrey said simply. "You always were, but now you know it." Imani flourished in Munich. She became nearly fluent in basic German, made close friends at school, and developed a love for art encouraged by her teachers. Jeffrey and Cassidy attended her first school art show, where her painting of the three of them holding hands in front of a castle won first prize in her age group. "That's us," Imani explained proudly. "My family. We're happy." Jeffrey bought the painting for an absurdly inflated price that the school's fundraiser gratefully accepted, and it now hung in their Munich apartment's living room, a testament to how far they'd come. As Cassidy's health stabilized, they began to plan their future. Wedding discussions happened over breakfast. Business planning for expanding the Imani's Hope Learning Center occurred during evening walks. Life planning unfolded naturally, both of them building a shared vision of what came next. "I want to go back to teaching full-time," Cassidy said one night. "But I also want to help other cancer patients. Maybe we could expand the foundation to include medical advocacy, helping families handle the system." "We'll hire staff," Jeffrey agreed immediately. "You can design the program however you think best. Your experience gives you unique insight into what patients really need." "You always say yes," Cassidy observed with a smile. "To you? Always." Jeffrey kissed her. "Your dreams are my dreams now." They returned to the United States in late February to a home that felt different somehow. The estate wasn't just Jeffrey's mansion anymore. It was their family home, filled with Imani's artwork and Cassidy's books and the sound of laughter that had been absent for decades. Dr. Whitmore met with Cassidy immediately upon their return. "Dr. Bergman sent me all your records. Cassidy, this is the kind of result we dream about. You're a walking miracle." "I had a lot of help," Cassidy said, taking Jeffrey's hand. "You both did the work," Dr. Whitmore said. "Mr. Morrison provided resources, but you provided the will to fight. Together, you beat one of the deadliest cancers we treat. That's extraordinary." The doctor cleared Cassidy to return to normal activities with only quarterly monitoring scans. No restrictions. No limitations. Just life stretching ahead with possibility. Cassidy returned to the learning center with renewed energy. She expanded the program, adding support groups for parents dealing with serious illness, hiring additional tutors, and creating scholarships for children whose parents were too sick to work. The program Jeffrey had helped her start became a lifeline for dozens of families. One afternoon, a mother came to the center with her daughter. The woman was thin, wearing a scarf over her bald head, eyes shadowed with fear that Cassidy recognized intimately. "I heard you survived pancreatic cancer," the woman said. "They're telling me I have 6 months. I don't know how to tell my daughter. I don't know how to prepare her to lose me." Cassidy took the woman's hands. "You're not going to lose her. And she's not going to lose you. Not if I can help. Come with me." She spent 2 hours with that mother, sharing her story, providing resource information, and most importantly, giving hope. Jeffrey watched from the doorway, his heart full of pride. This was why they'd fought so hard. Not just to save Cassidy, but so she could save others. The woman left with tears of gratitude, her daughter enrolled in the tutoring program, and contact information for the best oncologists in the region. Cassidy had given her the most precious gift, a roadmap out of despair. "You're going to do this a lot, aren't you?" Jeffrey asked that evening. "Every chance I get," Cassidy confirmed. "I was given a second chance. I have to pay it forward." They set a wedding date, June 20th, exactly 1 year after the night they'd met. Cassidy wanted something simple, a garden ceremony at the estate with close friends and the families from the learning center. Jeffrey wanted whatever made her happy. Planning the wedding was joyful chaos. Imani insisted on being flower girl and helped choose flowers, bright red roses mixed with blue hydrangeas. Cassidy found a simple white dress that didn't look like a traditional wedding gown, just an elegant dress that made her feel beautiful. Jeffrey bought a new suit in charcoal gray and let Imani pick his tie, bright green with tiny flowers. "You'll look like spring," Imani declared. "If you say so, princess," Jeffrey agreed, unable to deny her anything. In April, Cassidy had her quarterly scan. She'd been feeling perfectly healthy, but the appointment still brought anxiety. Cancer leaves scars even when it's gone. The fear of recurrence lurks in every headache, every moment of fatigue. Jeffrey went with her to Hopkins, holding her hand in the waiting room just like always. When Dr. Whitmore called them in, Cassidy's grip tightened. "Still clear," Dr. Whitmore said with a smile. "No cancer markers. Your immune system is functioning beautifully. At this point, Cassidy, I'm confident saying you're cured. Not just in remission. Cured." Cassidy sobbed with relief. Every scan would bring this fear, she knew, probably for years. But each clear result was another step away from the darkness, another affirmation that she would live. That night they celebrated at home with Imani. The little girl had made a banner that said, "Mommy beat cancer forever," with careful crayon letters. They ate Imani's favorite dinner, pizza with extra cheese, and watched her favorite movie, all three of them piled on the couch together. "I'm glad you're not sick anymore, Mommy," Imani said sleepily. "I was really scared." "I know, baby. But the scary part is over. Now we just get to be happy." Cassidy kissed her daughter's forehead. "We get to be a family." "With Daddy too," Imani added, looking at Jeffrey. "With me too," Jeffrey confirmed, his voice thick. "Always." As the wedding approached, Jeffrey finalized Imani's adoption. They'd been functioning as her parents for months, but making it legal felt important. In early June, they stood before a judge who reviewed their case with a smile. "Mr. Morrison, Mrs. Parker, it's clear this child is loved and well cared for. I'm happy to grant this adoption. Imani, you now have 2 parents who will love you and protect you forever." Imani beamed. "Can I call him Daddy now? Like officially?" "Officially," the judge confirmed. Jeffrey picked up his daughter and held her close. "I love you, Imani Morrison Parker." "I love you too, Daddy." The three of them left the courthouse as an official family. On the courthouse steps, with sunshine bright overhead, they took a family photo. Jeffrey in a blue suit, Cassidy in a red dress, and Imani between them in a bright yellow dress. All of them smiling with pure, uncomplicated joy. 2 weeks later they would be married. But in that moment, standing on the courthouse steps, they were already everything that mattered. They were family. They were hope. They were proof that love and determination can overcome even the darkest circumstances. Jeffrey looked at Cassidy and Imani and knew that every decision he'd made, every dollar he'd spent, every hour he'd sat in hospital waiting rooms had led to this moment. Worth it. All of it. Completely worth it. The morning of June 20th arrived with perfect weather. Sunny but not too hot, with a gentle breeze that rustled the garden flowers. Cassidy woke in the cottage, surrounded by her bridesmaids, women she'd met through the learning center who'd become close friends. They helped her dress, fixed her hair, and cried happy tears that had to be repaired with makeup more than once. Imani, in her flower girl dress of deep blue, couldn't stop twirling. "Mommy, you look like a princess." "You look like my favorite person in the whole world," Cassidy replied, kneeling to hug her daughter carefully to avoid crushing the dress. "Ready to be a family officially?" "We're already a family," Imani said with 7-year-old wisdom. "This is just the party." In the main house, Jeffrey prepared with his best man, a college friend named Thomas who'd flown in from California. Thomas had watched Jeffrey build his fortune but lose himself in the process, and seeing his friend genuinely happy left him emotional. "She saved you," Thomas said, helping with Jeffrey's tie. "We saved each other," Jeffrey corrected. "I gave her resources. She gave me purpose. Imani gave us both love. We're a team." "I've never seen you like this," Thomas observed. "Content. Actually content." "I never was before," Jeffrey admitted. "I was successful but I was empty. Now I have everything that matters." The ceremony took place in the estate's garden at 4 o'clock. Chairs were set up under an arch covered in red roses and blue hydrangeas. About 50 people attended, staff from the estate, families from the learning center, a few of Jeffrey's business associates who'd become genuine friends, and Dr. Whitmore, who Cassidy had insisted must attend. Music played as guests found their seats. Then Imani walked down the aisle, carefully dropping flower petals, her face serious with concentration. When she reached Jeffrey at the front, she whispered loudly, "I didn't drop them too fast, did I?" "Perfect, princess," Jeffrey whispered back. Then Cassidy appeared and Jeffrey forgot to breathe. She wore a simple white dress that flowed to her ankles, her hair styled in soft curls, holding a bouquet of red roses. She was radiant, healthy, alive, and walking toward him with a smile that lit up her whole face. She'd asked Dr. Whitmore to walk her down the aisle, since she had no father to do it. The doctor, honored, held Cassidy's arm as they walked together. When they reached Jeffrey, Dr. Whitmore placed Cassidy's hand in his and whispered, "Take care of her." "Always," Jeffrey promised. The officiant was a local minister who'd helped at the learning center. He kept the ceremony simple and heartfelt, speaking about love that comes from adversity, families built through choice rather than blood, and the power of saying yes to hope. "Jeffrey and Cassidy came together in a moment of crisis," the minister said. "But they built their relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, genuine care, and unwavering commitment to each other and to Imani. They've shown us all what it means to face life's hardest challenges together." When it came time for vows, Jeffrey spoke first. "Cassidy, when I met you, I was rich in money and poor in everything else. You taught me what wealth really means. It's not what you have but who you share it with. You and Imani gave me a family and a purpose. I promise to love you in sickness and health, which feels especially meaningful given our journey. I promise to support your dreams, protect your happiness, and be the best father I can be to our daughter. I choose you today and every day forever." Cassidy's voice shook with emotion when she spoke. "Jeffrey, you saved my life in every way that matters. You gave me medical care when I'd given up hope. You gave me a home when I had nothing. You gave my daughter a father when she was about to lose her mother. But most of all, you gave me a reason to fight, to believe in tomorrow. I promise to love you with the same determination you showed in loving me. I promise to build a life with you that honors this second chance we've been given. I choose you forever." The minister pronounced them husband and wife. "You may kiss your bride." Jeffrey cupped Cassidy's face gently and kissed her while their guests applauded and Imani cheered. It was a perfect moment, sunlight and flowers and love. The reception was held under tents on the lawn. There was dinner and dancing, speeches that made everyone laugh and cry, and a cake decorated with sugar flowers that Imani had helped design. Jeffrey danced with Cassidy to their song, at last, holding her close and marveling that she was his wife. "Happy?" he murmured. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Cassidy replied. "A year ago I was dying. Today I'm married to the man I love, my daughter is healthy and safe, and we have a whole future ahead of us. It's more than I dreamed of." "Get used to it," Jeffrey said. "I plan to make you this happy every single day." Later, Jeffrey danced with Imani, lifting her feet onto his so she could dance with him properly. "How's it feel to be Imani Morrison Parker officially?" "Good," Imani said. "But Daddy? I always felt like yours. Even before the adoption. You chose to love me. That made you my daddy." Jeffrey's eyes stung with tears. "I'm the luckiest father in the world." As the sun set, guests lit sparklers and formed a path for Jeffrey, Cassidy, and Imani to walk through. The three of them moved together through the tunnel of light, holding hands while cameras captured the moment. At the end of the sparkler tunnel, they turned and waved to everyone who'd come to celebrate their family. That night, after guests had left and Imani was asleep in her room, Jeffrey and Cassidy sat on the balcony of the main house, now officially their home together. The estate spread out below them, peaceful and beautiful. "We did it," Cassidy said softly. "We made it through the impossible and came out the other side." "You did it," Jeffrey corrected. "You fought cancer and won. I just supported you. We did it together." Cassidy leaned against him. "And now we get to live. Really live. Raise our daughter. Help other families. Build something meaningful. I love you, Cassidy Morrison." "I love you too, Jeffrey Morrison." She smiled. "Ready for the rest of our lives?" "Ready," Jeffrey confirmed. "Bring on the rest of our lives." They sat together under the stars, two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and built a love strong enough to survive anything. The lonely billionaire had a family now. The dying mother was cured and thriving. And the little girl had two parents who would love and protect her forever. It was, Jeffrey thought, the perfect happy beginning to the life they would build together. Not an ending but a new start to a story they would write together, one day at a time for the rest of their lives. The first year of marriage flew by in a whirlwind of joy and growth. Cassidy threw herself into expanding the learning center, hiring staff and developing programs that served not just children but entire families facing medical crises. Jeffrey supported every initiative, providing funding and business expertise while letting Cassidy lead the vision. "You're better at this than I am," he admitted one evening, reviewing her proposal for a family support network. "You understand what people need because you lived it." "We lived it," Cassidy corrected. "You were there for every treatment, every scare, every victory. This program is as much yours as mine." They launched the expanded Imani's Hope Foundation in September with a gala fundraiser. The event raised over $2 million in a single night, money that would help hundreds of families access treatment, pay bills during illness, and receive emotional support through crisis. At the gala, Cassidy gave a speech that left few eyes dry. "A year and a half ago, I was a single mother dying of cancer with nowhere to turn. One man's kindness changed everything. But this foundation isn't about one person's generosity. It's about creating a system where every family facing medical crisis has support. Nobody should have to choose between treatment and keeping a roof over their children's heads. Nobody should die because they can't afford to live." The foundation became Cassidy's life work. She met with families, connected them to resources, advocated with hospitals and insurance companies, and personally supported people through their darkest hours. Every person she helped was a fulfillment of the promise she'd made to herself, to pay forward the miracles she'd received. Jeffrey watched his wife bloom into her full power. She was confident, articulate, passionate, and effective. Hospitals learned to take her calls seriously. Insurance companies knew she wouldn't back down. And families learned they had a fierce advocate who understood their struggle intimately. At home they built a life of simple happiness. Family dinners every night when possible. Weekend trips to local attractions with Imani. Game nights with bad jokes and competitive Monopoly. The rhythms of normal family life that both Jeffrey and Cassidy had missed in their different ways. Imani thrived in her school, excelling in art and making close friends. She was thoughtful and kind, often bringing home classmates who needed extra support or inviting kids nobody else played with to their house. She'd learned empathy from watching her mother's illness and Jeffrey's devotion. "She's going to change the world," Jeffrey said one night, watching Imani help a younger child with homework at the learning center. "She already is," Cassidy replied. "Little kindnesses create big changes." Cassidy's quarterly scans continued to come back clear. After 2 years, Dr. Whitmore extended them to every 6 months. After 3 years annually. Each clear scan was a celebration, a confirmation that the cure was real and lasting. You're one of my greatest success stories, Dr. Whitmore told Cassidy at the 3-year mark. We use your case in teaching. You're proof that experimental treatments can work miracles. I'm proof that having support makes all the difference, Cassidy corrected. The medicine worked, but so did love. In their 4th year of marriage, Cassidy broached a subject they discussed but never seriously pursued. I want another baby. Jeffrey looked up from his laptop, surprised. You do? I do. I know we have Imani and she's everything. But I feel like my body won, like it beat cancer and deserves to create life instead of fight death. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Jeffrey moved to sit beside her. Are you sure you're ready? Health-wise. Dr. Whitmore says I'm healthy enough for pregnancy. The cancer is gone, truly gone. And I'm only 36. We have time. Cassidy took his hand. I want to give Imani a sibling. I want to experience pregnancy without fear. I want to create a life with you. Then let's do it, Jeffrey said without hesitation. Let's expand our family. 6 months later, Cassidy was pregnant. The pregnancy was carefully monitored given her medical history, but everything progressed normally. Jeffrey was protective to the point of being overbearing, and Cassidy had to constantly remind him she wasn't sick, just pregnant. Imani, now 11, was thrilled about becoming a big sister. She read baby books and helped decorate the nursery and talked to Cassidy's growing belly every night. Hey baby, this is your big sister Imani. I'm going to teach you everything and we're going to have so much fun. The foundation continued operating smoothly with the excellent staff Cassidy had hired. She worked from home during her 3rd trimester, managing operations remotely while preparing for the baby's arrival. In early spring, Cassidy went into labor. This time there was no fear, no uncertainty about the future. Just excitement and joy. Jeffrey drove her to the hospital, holding her hand through contractions while Imani stayed with trusted friends. Their daughter was born after 6 hours of labor, healthy and beautiful, with Cassidy's eyes and Jeffrey's dark hair. They named her Grace because she was a gift of grace after everything they'd endured. Holding Grace for the first time, Cassidy wept happy tears. I made life. After cancer tried to take mine, I made new life. Jeffrey held them both, his wife and new daughter, and felt overwhelming gratitude. You're incredible. Absolutely incredible. They brought Grace home to a house decorated with welcome banners Imani had made. The now 11-year-old was gentle and sweet with her baby sister, constantly wanting to hold her, sing to her, help with everything. She's perfect, Mommy, Imani whispered, cradling Grace carefully. Our family is perfect. Life with a newborn was chaotic and exhausting and wonderful. Jeffrey took paternity leave, his first real break from work in years, to be fully present. They stumbled through sleepless nights together, took turns with feedings and marveled at every tiny milestone. Cassidy nursed Grace while working on foundation business. Jeffrey attended board meetings via video with a baby in his arms. Imani did homework while singing lullabies to her sister. They were tired and happy and complete. As Grace grew, the family found new rhythms. Weekend park visits with the baby. Imani teaching Grace to smile and laugh. Family photos that captured genuine joy. This was the life Cassidy had dreamed of in her darkest hours. Normal, chaotic, full of love. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Jeffrey arranged for a weekend away for just the two of them while Imani stayed with friends and Grace stayed with a trusted nanny. They went to a beach house, the same one they'd visited years earlier when Cassidy was still fighting cancer. Remember the last time we were here? Cassidy asked, walking the beach at sunset. You were so weak. I was so scared. Jeffrey held her hand. Look at you now. Healthy, strong, a mother of 2, changing hundreds of lives through the foundation. Look at us, Cassidy corrected. We built all of this together. You gave me life. I gave you family. We gave each other love. They stood on the beach as the sun set, the waves washing over their feet, and Jeffrey thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that pet adoption event where a little girl had whispered devastating words, to this moment of perfect peace. Thank you, he said softly. For fighting. For living. For loving me. Thank you for not giving up on us. Cassidy leaned into him. For seeing us as worth saving. You were always worth saving, Jeffrey said. I just had the resources to help. You did the hard part. They walked back to the beach house as stars emerged, 2 people who'd found each other in crisis and built a life of joy. Tomorrow they'd go home to their daughters. Tonight they simply celebrated being alive, being together, being happy. The lonely billionaire wasn't lonely anymore. The dying mother was thriving. And the little girl who'd started it all was growing up surrounded by love, learning through her parents' example that kindness and hope and determination can overcome even the darkest circumstances. It was, Jeffrey thought, the best investment he'd ever made. Not in treatment or houses or foundations, but in people, in love, in family. That was wealth that truly mattered. 5 years after Jeffrey and Cassidy's wedding, as spring painted the estate in pastels, they were planning a very different ceremony. Imani, now 16 and beautiful, had asked if they could renew their vows and include her and 6-year-old Grace in the ceremony, making it a full family commitment. "I want us to promise to always be family," Imani explained. "Not just you two married, but all 4 of us promising to love and support each other. Is that weird?" "It's beautiful," Cassidy said, hugging her daughter. "Let's do it." The vow renewal was planned for the same garden where Jeffrey and Cassidy had married, but this time with their daughters as full participants. Grace, now 6 with her mother's smile and father's intelligence, was excited to wear a fancy dress and carry flowers like Imani had years ago. Imani, a high school junior with her mother's compassion and her father's business sense, had grown into a remarkable young woman. She volunteered at the foundation, tutored younger children, and had already decided she wanted to study medicine. "I want to help families like you helped Mom," she told Jeffrey. "I want to be the doctor who doesn't give up." The ceremony planning brought the whole family together. Grace insisted on blue and purple flowers this time, because those were her favorite colors. Imani wrote a speech about what family meant to her. Cassidy and Jeffrey worked together on new vows that included promises to their daughters as well as each other. The foundation staff threw themselves into helping organize the event. What started as a small family ceremony grew into a celebration that included the hundreds of families they'd helped over the years. People whose lives had been saved by the foundation wanted to witness and celebrate this family that had given them hope. On the day of the ceremony, the estate garden overflowed with guests. Children the foundation had supported, now healthy and thriving. Parents who'd been given second chances, like Cassidy. Staff members who'd found purpose in the work. And Dr. Whitmore, who'd saved Cassidy's life and remained a close family friend. Jeffrey stood at the altar with Imani and Grace beside him, all 3 wearing coordinating outfits. Jeffrey in a blue suit, Imani in a flowing maroon dress she'd chosen herself, and Grace in a purple dress with blue ribbons. They waited for Cassidy, who'd insisted on a dramatic entrance. Music played and Cassidy appeared, stunning in a red dress that celebrated life and victory. She walked down the aisle alone this time, strong and healthy, her eyes locked on her family waiting for her. When she reached them, she took Jeffrey's hand on one side and held both daughters close on the other. The officiant, the same minister from their original wedding, smiled at the 4 of them. "We gather today to celebrate not just a marriage but a family," he began. "Jeffrey, Cassidy, Imani, and Grace have asked to make promises to each other, to publicly declare their commitment as a family unit. This is a rare and beautiful thing." Jeffrey spoke first, looking at each of them. "Cassidy, 5 years ago I promised to love you forever. I've kept that promise and I renew it today. You've made me a better man. Imani, you made me a father before I even knew I wanted to be one. You taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about choice and love. I promise to always support your dreams and be here when you need me. Grace, you made me a father again and showed me that the heart just keeps expanding. I promise to protect you, guide you, and love you unconditionally. I promise all 3 of you that I will always put this family first, that I will use everything I have to keep you safe and happy, and that I will love you until my last breath." Cassidy spoke next, her voice strong and clear. "Jeffrey, you saved my life, but more than that, you gave me reasons to live it fully. I promise to love you through whatever comes, the way you loved me through the worst. Imani, you are my first miracle. You kept me fighting when I wanted to give up. You showed me what real courage looks like. I promise to always be proud of you and to support you in becoming whoever you want to be. Grace, you are my second miracle, the gift I never thought I'd have. You proved my body could create life after fighting death. I promise to cherish you and help you grow into your own amazing person. I promise all of you that I will never take a single day for granted, that I will love fiercely and gratefully, and that I will always, always choose hope." Then Imani spoke, reading from notes she'd written. "Mom and Dad, you saved each other. I watched you turn something terrible into something beautiful. You taught me that kindness matters, that love is stronger than fear, and that family is what you make it. I promise to carry those lessons forward, to help people the way you helped each other. Grace, you made me a big sister and that's my favorite thing to be. I promise to always protect you and teach you everything I know. I promise all of you that I'll make you proud, that I'll use the gifts you've given me to make the world better, and that no matter how old I get or where life takes me, we'll always be family. Grace, 6 years old and earnest, spoke last with the simple wisdom of childhood. I promise to be good and help people and love you all forever and ever. And I promise to feed the dog when we get one because Imani said we might get a dog. Everyone laughed, the tension breaking into joy. Jeffrey knelt down. We're definitely getting a dog. The minister concluded the ceremony. This family has shown us what love looks like in action. They've faced death and disease, loneliness and fear, and they've chosen love at every turn. By the power invested in me, I declare this family united, bound by love and commitment, today and always. They exchanged rings with new inscriptions. Jeffrey and Cassidy simply said, "Forever family." Imani received a ring that said, "Chosen daughter." Grace received one that said, "Gift of grace." All 4 rings matched, a symbol of their unbreakable bond. The celebration that followed was pure joy. There was dancing and food and speeches from people whose lives the Morrison family had touched. A mother whose cancer had been cured thanks to foundation funding. A child who'd been tutored by Imani and was now in college. A father who'd been able to keep his job during his wife's illness because the foundation had provided childcare. Dr. Whitmore gave a toast that had everyone reaching for tissues. I've been a doctor for 40 years. I've seen medical miracles. But the real miracle isn't just that Cassidy survived. It's that this family turned their crisis into a mission to help others. They took their pain and transformed it into purpose. That's the rarest kind of healing. As the sun set, Jeffrey stood with his family looking out at the hundreds of people celebrating with them. Cassidy leaned against him while Imani held Grace's hand, all 4 of them together. "Can you believe this?" Cassidy murmured. 6 years ago I was dying in a parking lot. Now look at us. "I believe it," Jeffrey said, "because I see it every day. You're here healthy and strong. Our daughters are amazing. We've helped hundreds of families. This is real." "It's better than real," Imani added. "It's perfect." Grace tugged on Jeffrey's hand. "Daddy? Can we dance?" Jeffrey swept his youngest daughter into his arms while Cassidy and Imani joined them. The 4 of them danced together as twilight deepened and stars emerged, surrounded by people they'd helped and who'd helped them, a living testament to the power of compassion. That night, after guests had left and both daughters were asleep, Jeffrey and Cassidy sat on their favorite balcony, the one overlooking the garden where they'd now married twice. "What's next?" Jeffrey asked. "We've built a foundation, raised 2 incredible daughters, helped hundreds of families. What do we do for an encore?" Cassidy smiled. "We keep living, keep loving, keep helping. There are always more families who need support, more children who need hope. And we keep being grateful for every single day we have together." "Sounds perfect," Jeffrey agreed. "Though I think we might actually have to get that dog now. Grace won't forget." Cassidy laughed. "A dog and whatever else comes. We'll face it together as a family." "As a family," Jeffrey repeated, and the words felt like the truest thing he'd ever said. They sat together under the stars, for lives intertwined by choice and love and determination. The lonely billionaire had found his purpose. The dying mother had built a legacy of hope. The first daughter had grown into a force for good. And the second daughter reminded them daily that life was precious and miraculous. It was, Jeffrey thought, exactly the life they were meant to live. Not perfect but real and full and overflowing with love. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. 5 years after the vow renewal, Jeffrey stood in the same upscale venue where he'd attended that pet adoption event 11 years earlier. But this time he wasn't alone and lonely. He was with his family, Cassidy, vibrant at 46, her health perfect at 11 years cancer-free, Imani, now 21 and in her 2nd year of medical school, and Grace, 11 and already talking about following her sister into medicine. They were hosting the Imani's Hope Foundation's annual adoption event, which had grown from a simple fundraiser into a major charitable gathering. The foundation now served over 1,000 families annually, providing medical support, financial assistance, and emotional counseling to people facing serious illness. "This is where it all started," Cassidy said, looking around the room. "You came here looking for a dog to fill empty spaces. Instead you found us." "Best decision I never planned to make," Jeffrey said, kissing her temple. "Though we still don't have a dog." "We have 2 dogs now, Dad," Grace corrected, rolling her eyes. "Remember? Buster and Sunshine?" "Right. I knew that." Jeffrey grinned. Imani laughed at their banter. She'd grown into a beautiful, confident young woman, excelling in medical school while still finding time to volunteer at the foundation. She'd recently published a paper on patient advocacy that was getting attention in medical journals. She was everything Cassidy and Jeffrey had hoped she'd become and more. Grace, 11 and sharp as a knife, had inherited Cassidy's teaching skills and Jeffrey's business sense. She tutored younger children, ran fundraising campaigns for various causes, and had already decided she wanted to be a pediatric oncologist. "I want to save kids like you saved Mom," she told her parents. As the adoption event unfolded, families mingled with rescue animals, and Jeffrey found himself approached by a man he didn't recognize. The man was thin, wearing clothes that had seen better days, and holding the hand of a small boy around 5 years old. "Mr. Morrison?" The man's voice was hesitant. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I heard you help people. Real people, not just with donations but with actual help." Jeffrey's attention sharpened. There was something familiar about this moment, an echo of the past. "What's your name?" "Thomas Chin. This is my son Daniel." The man put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "My wife, she has stage 4 breast cancer. We've spent everything on treatment. I'm about to lose my job because I've missed so much work taking care of her. We're facing eviction and I don't know what to do. Daniel just wants his mom to be okay, but I can't make that happen." The little boy looked up at Jeffrey with eyes full of fear and hope, and Jeffrey felt time fold in on itself. This was his moment, 11 years ago, facing Imani's desperation. This was his chance to be for someone else what he'd been for Cassidy. Cassidy appeared at his side as if sensing the importance of the moment. She took one look at Thomas and Daniel and understood immediately. "We're going to help you," Jeffrey said firmly. "All of you. Your wife will get the best treatment available. You'll keep your home. Daniel will have everything he needs." "That's not a maybe. That's a promise." Thomas started crying. "I can't ask you to do that. It's too much." "You didn't ask. I'm offering." Jeffrey put his hand on Thomas's shoulder. "My wife survived stage 4 pancreatic cancer 11 years ago. I know exactly what you're facing. And I'm telling you, you don't have to face it alone." Cassidy knelt down to Daniel's level. "Hi, sweetheart. My name is Cassidy. When I was very sick, Mr. Morrison helped me get better. Now we help other families whose parents are sick. We're going to help your mom, okay?" Daniel nodded, tears streaming down his face. "You can make Mommy better?" "We're going to do everything we can," Cassidy promised. "And we're going to make sure you and your daddy have everything you need while Mommy fights her sickness." Imani stepped forward, pulling out her phone. "I'll call Dr. Whitmore right now. She's the best oncologist in the region. We'll get your wife an appointment this week." Grace tugged on Thomas's hand gently. "Don't worry. My mom was really sick too and now she's completely better. Your wife can get better too." Thomas looked around at the Morrison family, all 4 of them surrounding him and his son with support and determination, and he broke down completely. "Thank you. God, thank you." Jeffrey pulled out his phone and started making arrangements, the same way he had 11 years earlier. Hospital calls. Financial arrangements. Housing assistance. Transportation. Within an hour, Thomas's wife had an appointment at Johns Hopkins, their rent was paid for 6 months, and Thomas had a job offer at one of Jeffrey's companies with flexible hours and full benefits. As Thomas left with Daniel, clutching information packets and Jeffrey's personal phone number, Cassidy leaned against her husband. "You just changed their lives," she said softly. "We just changed their lives," Jeffrey corrected. "This is why we built the foundation. This is what it's all about." Imani watched Thomas and Daniel leave, her expression thoughtful. "That's going to be me someday. I'm going to be the doctor who fights for patients like Mom, who doesn't give up on them." "You already are that doctor," Cassidy said proudly. "You're going to save so many lives, baby." Grace hugged her sister. "We're all going to help people. That's what Morrisons do." That evening, the 4 of them sat in their favorite spot on the estate balcony, overlooking the gardens where so much of their family story had unfolded. Buster and Sunshine, the dogs they'd finally adopted, lay at their feet. 11 years, Jeffrey said wonderingly. 11 years since that night in the parking lot. "Best 11 years of my life," Cassidy said. "Even counting the cancer because it led us here. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Dad hadn't helped us?" Grace asked. Cassidy and Jeffrey exchanged a look. They'd discussed this privately but never with the girls. "I would have died," Cassidy said honestly. "Probably within a month or 2 of that night. You would have gone into foster care, Imani. Grace wouldn't exist. Dad would still be lonely and lost. None of this would exist. One moment of kindness changed everything," Imani said. "For all of us. That's why we do what we do," Jeffrey said. "Because we know what difference it makes. Every family we help is a life saved, a future created, a chance given. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. The foundation had helped over 3,000 families in 11 years. They'd funded research that led to new treatments. They'd changed laws around medical bankruptcy. They'd saved lives literally and figuratively. But more than that, they'd created a family built on love and choice and determination. They'd proved that the darkest moments could lead to the brightest futures if you just didn't give up. What about you? Have you ever wondered if one small act of kindness could change someone's entire life? Have you ever wanted to help but didn't know how? This family's journey shows us that hope and love really can overcome anything. Please subscribe to see more stories like this and comment below. What would you do if you had the resources to save someone's life? Your story could inspire someone else who needs hope right now. Cassidy's quarterly monitoring appointments had become annual celebrations. At 11 years cancer-free, Dr. Whitmore called her a walking miracle and used her case to give hope to other patients. Cassidy spoke at medical conferences, sharing her story to encourage both patients and doctors never to give up. The foundation continued growing. Imani planned to join the board after medical school, combining clinical expertise with the advocacy work she'd learned from her mother. Grace had already started a youth division, organizing teenagers to volunteer and fundraise for families in crisis. Jeffrey had stepped back from his tech company's daily operations, focusing entirely on the foundation and his family. His wealth continued growing through investments, but now it had purpose. Every dollar went towards saving lives, supporting families, and creating hope. One night, as they prepared for bed, Cassidy looked at the framed picture on their dresser. The four of them at the vow renewal, smiling and whole and happy. "We did it," she said. "We really did it. We took the worst thing that ever happened to me and turned it into the best thing that happened to all of us." Jeffrey wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You did it. You fought and survived and thrived. I just helped." "We did it together," Cassidy insisted. "That's the point. Nobody has to face hard things alone. That's what we teach through the foundation, what we show through our family. Together is always better than alone." "Together is everything," Jeffrey agreed. Downstairs, they could hear Imani helping Grace with homework, their voices mixing with the dog's occasional barks. It was the sound of home, of family, of life being lived fully and gratefully. Jeffrey thought back to that lonely man at the pet adoption event, empty despite his wealth, looking for something to fill the void. He couldn't have imagined then that a little girl's desperate whisper would lead to this. A wife he adored, 2 daughters who amazed him daily, a foundation changing thousands of lives, and a purpose that made every day meaningful. "What are you thinking about?" Cassidy asked. "About how one moment changed everything. About how saying yes to helping you was the best decision I ever made. About how grateful I am for every single day." Cassidy turned in his arms and kissed him. "I'm grateful too. For you, for our daughters, for this life. All of it." They stood together in their bedroom, holding each other while life continued around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new families to help, new ways to make a difference. But tonight, they simply existed in the peace of knowing they'd built something beautiful from something terrible. The lonely billionaire had found his family. The dying mother had not only survived but thrived, building a legacy of hope that would outlive them all. The first daughter had grown into a healer. The second daughter was learning to be a force for good. And together, they were proof that love and determination and simple kindness could overcome even the darkest circumstances. 11 years ago, a little girl had whispered, "It's my mommy's last day alive." Tonight, that mother tucked 2 daughters into bed, kissed her husband goodnight, and planned for a future filled with possibility. The cancer that should have killed her had instead led to a life more beautiful than she'd ever dreamed possible. That, Jeffrey thought as he drifted off to sleep beside his wife, was the real miracle. Not just survival but transformation. Not just being saved but learning to save others. Not just finding love but building a family that embodied everything love should be: fierce, protective, generous, and enduring. The story that began with desperation had ended in hope. And tomorrow they would wake up and do it all again, helping the next family who needed them, spreading the message that no one has to face their darkest hour alone. Because in the end, that's what it was all about. Choosing love, choosing hope, choosing to help, choosing family, choosing life. Over and over, every single day choosing what matters. And they would keep choosing it together for the rest of their lives.